Alrighty, so this is a little workshop slash overview of InDesign and how you can set up your portfolio using InDesign. So whether you are familiar with InDesign or first time using it, we'll get into it and we'll show you how you can use it so you can be efficient with organizing your portfolio as well as setting it up for print. So we'll set up our portfolio by going into the new file, and we will set our size over here. Right now it's set up as picas, so if you like, you can always change that to inches by clicking on that drop-down menu and clicking on inches, and then you'll be able to set up your pages. We'll set up our height and our width at 17 by 11, and we'll keep the orientation over here at landscape for all our pages. By default, facing pages over here, this little checkbox will be turned on, and that could be useful for you depending on how you want to lay out your portfolio. If you're going to have two pages that are kind of open and you kind of want to use them side by side together as a full spread, you might want to use facing pages so that you can see how they would look like when you're turning the page. If you are going to be using both sides of the page, if you're doing a one-sided print where you're only worried about one page at a time, then you might want to turn off facing pages, and that'll kind of separate out all the pages for you individually rather than having a spread with two pages next to each other. So it kind of just depends on how you want to set up your portfolio, if you're printing it on one side or printing it on two sides of the sheet of paper. Excuse me. I'll show you what both look like so you can kind of decide how you want to lay things out. So we'll leave facing pages with that check mark for now, and we'll make sure that our margins are set. Half inch is fine. Our bleed, if you want to print outside of the 8.5, or I'm sorry, outside of the 11 by 17, meaning edge to edge, then you might want to set up your bleed. Bleed basically is a nice little guide that shows you where the outwork is outside of your paper, so that if you want to go edge to edge, you'll see exactly where that edge artwork will be. And it'll give you a little bit of a, let's call it a tolerance, so that when it does go to the printer and they print it out, if artwork were to shift a little bit, you have enough on the outside of it to cover all the paper going edge to edge after they cut it. So we'll just add, you know, a 1/4 inch bleed over here, and we'll hit create. And because we did facing pages, oops, I think we just started off with one page, but our first page over here is an 11 by 17. If you click on this tab over here in your left-hand side, you'll see all the pages that you do have over here. Actually, I'm sorry, let me change these settings real quick to hide my menu so you can see the bottom here. Sorry about that. Thanks for sticking with me. All right, so on the bottom over here on our Pages panel, we can add a new page. And when we add a new page, let's add a few. You know, we could have set it up so it said 24 right away. I forgot to do that. But if we are doing a 24-page portfolio, because we have facing pages, we are going to see our pages right next to each other like this. So we have one page and we have our second page next to it. Okay, so that is one setup that you can do. Go to File, New Document. The other way that you can do it, and actually let me write down 24 pages here this time, is without this facing pages. And if you click off of that check mark, then all the pages are going to be on a separate, page. So you're not going to see them side by side. You will see them one by one. So we have 24 different pages separately over here. And just in case you wanted to know, I am holding the Option button and clicking or using my mouse wheel to zoom in and out. You could also hit the Command plus and Command minus button to zoom in and out of each page. Okay. So however you like to set it up, whether it's facing pages like this, where you have both on one spread, or whether you have them all set up individually like this, that is a matter of preference, and again, kind of what you're planning to do. You can kind of print out on both sides of the sheet, so you can have a spread like this where you have a certain project spanning both pages or both sides of the sheet here. Cool. All right, so that's basically how you set up your project. Of course, you want to save and name your InDesign file so that you can easily open it up again. Okay, so let's talk about really quickly how we can start putting our work into our pages here. We'll start with page 1. Typically, we'll create a title page for page 1, and then page 2 and 3 and 4 will have our content. And if you are going with the spread version like this, you'll have that dark line right here in the center that lets you know what your page separation is. So that's your middle page over here and page over here. The red line around here is your bleed, and this little area over here, this sort of nice pinkish purplish line inside, that is your margin, so that you can keep your texts safe and everything. And yeah, that's pretty much it for those. So you can kind of use that to place your artwork. All right, so let's talk about putting in your artwork. There's a couple ways that you can do it, whatever way is more comfortable for you. Please feel free to do that. You can open up your Finder and select any of the files that you have by dragging and dropping them right into your pages. Or you can go into File and you can click on Place, and that will place an image or document into the page for you. When you do go to File, Place, you do have a little bit more options though than dragging and dropping, and that might be something to look into. So usually when you have a PDF, sometimes you might have multiple pages that you've created. You'll be able to actually put in each page of that PDF into the document separate. If you click on Show Import Options and then select the PDF that you want to upload. So I have some PDFs here that I would like to upload. Say this this PDF over here of a bunch of images. I can click on Show Import Options right down here. and then click on Open, and that will give me the option to import multiple pages. So let's click on Open, and that will ask me if I wanted to place or open the PDF here. And we're going to go ahead and place the PDF. And then it's going to ask me over here which page I want to insert, or if I want to insert all the pages. If I click on Previewed Page, then it's going to only insert the page that I have selected right over here in this preview, which is page 1. I can click on a page range and select only a certain page number that's in there, or pages 2 and 3. Or I can select all of them, and I'll be able to place all 7 pages individually. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to click on All for this one, and I'm going to click on OK, and then it's going to give me this little rectangle here that's a preview of my image. And then I'll get to literally just click and place my image where I want it to be. If I just click, it's going to put the image in there at the size of the image, at its natural full resolution. So that might be smaller than my 11 by 17 page, or it might be larger than my 11 by 17 page. It just depends on the file and the size of my PDF. Obviously, if I have an 8.5 by 11 PDF, and I'm putting it on a 11 by 17 area, it's going to be smaller than my artboard. But if it's a 26 by 34 inch poster, a JPEG image of a 36 by 24 poster, then it's going to be much larger, so I'll have to adjust the size of my image. That being said, let's click and see where it lands. I'm going to click it over here, and it got put in like this. It's a little bit bigger than my page, so that's good. That means it's going to come out high quality when I print it. I can always make things smaller, but I can't always make things larger and expect the quality to stay the same. That being said, we still have 7 more pages, or 6 more pages, so we can click them to place them, or we can draw out a rectangle to place them in a smaller size. So by clicking, we kind of see the full resolution. By drawing out a rectangle, we're placing that image in that size of a rectangle. So we can continue drawing out rectangles to place them like this until we run out of pages in our PDF. Okay, once I run out, I'll know because I can't draw anymore. Okay. So that's a PDF with multiple pages. That could be useful if you did a publication, or if you want to show another InDesign project that you did for another class, where you did a publication or a couple spreads in a magazine. That's a good way to kind of bring in the whole PDF without having to separate out those individual files. Of course, once you click on the picture that you brought in, the file that you brought in, or the image that you brought in, you can adjust the size of that. If you've never used InDesign before, then this is a little bit new. Hopefully you have a little bit of experience in Photoshop and Illustrator. If you do, then this tool panel to the left over here should seem familiar to you. The top portion should seem familiar as well. We have different tabs over here for different projects or files or documents, just like we would in Illustrator or Photoshop. The only difference is some of the tools here are not really meant for editing photos or for drawing logos. This is more of a layout program. But again, the nice thing about it is that when it does bring in images, it is pointing to the image on the hard drive instead of loading the entire image in. So it's a lot more efficient. Things don't slow down because it's using the low resolution version of it. Then when you're ready to save it as a PDF, then it references the high resolution image and puts it into that PDF as a high resolution, full resolution image. But yeah, just like with Photoshop or with Illustrator, you can select the frame that your image is in and resize it. The only thing is that when you do resize it, you do have to hold down the Shift button in order to make sure that it is being resized in the same ratio. And frames work a little bit differently in InDesign here. What the frame will do is actually kind of almost crop the image. So if I'm making it smaller, I'm not actually scaling it down. I'm just taking the frame and squeezing in on the image here, like that. And that's not exactly what I necessarily want my end point to be. But if I resize it to about the size that I want, then I can resize the entire image to be exactly fit inside of my frame here. So that's my frame. It looks like it's on the outside over here. And again, you want to hold your Shift button down to make sure that you're scaling it evenly. Then you just want to right-click on your frame, okay? And you will go down to Fitting. And where Fitting is, that's when you will get to tell InDesign, hey, I want you to shrink my image to fit it perfectly inside that frame that I created that size for. So right there, under Fitting, we'll click on Fit Content to the frame. Fit content to frame. And that will place the entire image into that frame. Because you were holding down the Shift button, right? You were making sure that that frame was exactly proportional to the image. So it's scaled perfectly. And then you can do the same thing for these other ones that you inserted. Okay, if you are doing a side-by-side sort of layout like this, then you can do something like that where you can have all the pages small inside of your pages. So you can show off the contents of the PDF and have one nice big hero image here. But again, the nice thing is that you can have a lot of open files. So here's another example here. I just kind of want to show you by opening up my Finder that if you look at this templates folder, I have about 30 files here. And if you take a look at the size, get info, the size of this folder is about 5 gigabytes. So that's a lot, right? That's a lot of PSD files here that I'm going to put into my InDesign file, 5 gigs worth. Normally, if you were to put that inside of Illustrator or Photoshop, 5 gigs worth of image files or Photoshop files, that would really bog down the system and you would really struggle to get things done, right? Filters would take forever. If you move something, it would take forever to refresh because of how much image processing needs to be done on the processor and on the graphics card because you're using those high full resolution images in Photoshop. But inside of InDesign, it just references those images. So I can literally go over here now into one page. Take all of these, hitting the Shift button to select more than one from the top to the bottom, and put in all 30 files that are 5 gigabytes right into InDesign. Drag and drop. We'll click on OK. We're not worried about that. And we have 30. Hopefully you can see that little icon next to the mouse. It says 30 on there. We're going to bring in all 30 of them into InDesign. All right, so we're going to just click, click, click. I'm just going to bring all of these in like this into one page. And you'll notice that I can actually use InDesign without any slowdown, okay, to my work here, right? So I can move all of these, and it moves all 5 gigs worth of information very easily and quickly over here. Okay. Here's a tip. Okay. If you want to select more than one and shrink them all down and scale them at the very same time, you can do this individually as well. So you don't necessarily have to always click on right click and scale to fit. Right? You can actually hold down the Shift and Command button at the same time, and when you scale it down, it will then, oops, sorry, it might be the Option button here. What is happening here? It doesn't want to do that for me. There we go. Let's try this way. Zoom out, and then grab that corner over here. I think we have too many selected. That might be why. So sometimes InDesign doesn't like it when it is covering more than one page. As you can see, this is spanning 1, 2, 3. So if you walk into that issue, you might want to hold the Shift button down, bring that down a little bit like that. There we go. And that one fit content to frame. Just get those really large ones that are spanning most of it. And then you can probably then be able to select, here we go, let's select Command A for all, and then bring them down with the Shift button. No, sometimes it's a little tricky. It doesn't like that really large one. Okay, let's bring the really large one back down a little bit. We'll right click. There we go. Now we'll select all, Command A. Hold down our Shift Option button, and there we go. Now we can, Shift Command, sorry, is what we wanted to do. Shift and Command, and now we can make it smaller. And they all scale together. Okay. Shift Command. And they scale together. So you can do that individually with each individual image or with a group. Again, it's good to know sometimes that when an image does come in and it's way too large, then you might have to scale it manually that way by holding the Shift button down, scaling the frame, and then right-clicking to go to Fitting and fit content to frame. Okay. The other way you can do it, again, is if you're bringing in multiples. You can delete all these. Is to drag and drop them all in. But when you're dragging and dropping them in, you're not clicking, you're drawing out how big you want it to start with. So you can click and just draw out the size this way as well. Okay, so it kind of just depends on your style, how you want to bring in a bunch of different images, how you want to scale them, if you want them all to come in with the same size. You can kind of fill it with the entire page. I'm going to the margins, and the nice thing about bringing it in a little bit larger too, and these frames, is that you can, once you're done placing everything, you can adjust the size of the frames and crop things that you need cropped, or resize things that you need resized. So bear with me here while we kind of lay out our entire portfolio. So we can always adjust things later after we place them. And it seems like I might have way more images than I really need. So I'm just going to hit escape at this point since I don't want to load more. If I did want to load more, I can continue. Maybe, OK, we'll leave these last two alone. We'll hit escape and escape to escape out of those other two images so we don't have to place them. But once we have our images placed, as I mentioned, we can adjust things. So I came out with this image a little bit too far from my margins, right? If I want to have a nice white border around each image, then I can take my frame and adjust it just by clicking and dragging on that edge and putting it on that margin. Same thing with this one. If this one is a little bit too small over here, then one thing that I can do is I can always crop in and zoom in. So I can take this frame over here, move it to the edge of my margin, and you see how there's this little circle over here? If I click on that circle with the hand, that means that I'm controlling the actual size of the image now, not the frame. And this is where I can either right-click on it, go to fitting, and then ask it to fit into that frame a specific way. Or I can manually do it by clicking on that circle and then adjusting the image. I can either stretch it by clicking the side and stretching it out like that. Of course, we may not want it to be stretched out, so I'm going to hit Command-Z to undo. So if you want it to be proportional, you want to hold down to that Shift button, and then you can grab that corner or the side. As long as you're hitting that Shift button, it's going to proportionally scale it. And then you can put it on the edge. You can also make it bigger than your frame, and then you can click on that circle and sort of move it around and place it exactly where you want it, how you want it framed. So this brown line over here, that's your image, and the blue line is your frame right there. Okay. And then, of course, you can do some smart framing options. For example, you can right-click on that frame, and you can click on Fitting, and you can do Content-Aware Fit. So it'll automatically try to figure out where your subject is and frame it in the best possible way. So if it's too small, but I want it in this frame, if I click on fitting and content aware fit, it will make sure that it scales proportionally, but focuses on where my main subject would be. Sometimes that works really well. Other times you might manually have to do it. But you kind of get the idea of frames. You can do that. And the nice thing again is that you can bring in a literal PSD file, a Photoshop file, and then open up that Photoshop file. So let's take a look at how to do that. We're going to take a look at what these images and how they are linked, and we'll also learn how to package them so they're all in one place. So you see this little icon of a link in this corner in this image over here. That lets us know, kind of like I mentioned before, the way that InDesign works is that it links to a certain file on your hard drive and doesn't import it into InDesign. So now our InDesign file is not going to be 5 gigabytes big. Our InDesign file, when we save it, is still going to be a small file. If we were to open that file on another computer and we don't have the original PSD files, it's not going to open it. It'll open a preview of it, but it won't be able to access those files. It won't be able to save it as a full resolution PDF. So the PSD files or the JPEG images that you put into the InDesign file, they have to travel with that InDesign file. If it's on a local computer, that's great because it all stays on your computer, bless you. But if it's on one of our school computers, then not so good because everything that we link will get removed. So we'll want to package and save those links when we're done. That being said, we can see exactly where our files are by looking at the properties and looking at the link. So we'll click on Window, and we want to click on Links. If you don't see links in your Properties panel, then you want to make sure you go to Window and click on Links. When you click on Links, that'll show you all the different files that you dragged and dropped or opened and placed right over here in this panel. This panel is actually very useful because it's also going to show you some information about each image. Each image over here in this link info will tell you what the PPI is, how it's going to print out. So if it's 72 dots per inch, it's probably not going to look very great when it's printed on an 11 by 17 page. If you made the image smaller, you might see that the effective PPI over here is 436. That's fine. If it's bigger than 300, wonderful, that's exactly what we want. If it's under 300, that's when the quality of the print is going to suffer. So we can find out a lot about our image there. We can also see what page it's on right over here. And it is a PSD template file, or if it's a JPEG file, or if it's a PDF file. So this example PDF file has each page of that PDF and what page it's on. You can also edit the original file straight from InDesign. So if I'm looking at my image over here, my posters, I can click on this little Edit Original button. It'll open Photoshop up for me, and then I'll be able to change that original Photoshop file, edit it right there. So if I notice something that I might want to change while it's in my InDesign file, I can get automatic updates. It'll automatically update any change I make to a linked file. So that's another cool thing, is that it'll help you with version control, right? If you made a change to a project, you may have added some final touches on it, and now you open up your InDesign file, it's going to look at that original PSD file and load up those changes for you. So all you have to do is open your InDesign file and save it as a PDF, rather than having to drag and drop and update your image. So let's see how that works. Let's click on this little edit button and open up Photoshop, where it will let me update my image here. And this happens to be a mock-up template, so I can actually go into each of these smart objects and add a poster. So I have a poster over here that I'm going to add. Let's make that a little bit bigger to make it fit nicer. There we go. I'm going to hit save on the smart object, and that's going to place it inside of here. And I'll do the same thing to the other ones. This one will just have a nice white box. We'll save that. And in my third one, you know, why not? We'll just throw in a this guy over here. Oops. Maybe not that one. There we go. We'll hit save. Cool. And now we'll hit save over here. We'll close this one. Yes, we're going to save that Photoshop document. Or actually, yeah, you know what? I do apologize, because it was a template file rather than an original Photoshop file. We will have to update it. But if you had an original Photoshop file, let's just call this mockup portfolio. We'll save it into our downloads. Okay. We will have to update the link here because we did save it as a different name of a file. But I do want to show you that if you do put in a original PSD file that's not a template, then you'll be able to go into it. So I'm just going to delete this one, and let's just throw in the actual updated version here. Sorry about all the running around. Here's our portfolio PSD file. And I'm going to put it right in there. Adjust the frame. There we go. Okay. Now that that PSD file is in there, if I click on that PSD file and I edit that PSD file, we'll hit save. Now when I hit save on that PSD file, again, because it was originally a template file, template files want you to save a new file. They're not going to save over themselves. So now that it's a PSD, we're going to hit File, Save. Okay. We're going to go over to InDesign. And we see that InDesign has updated our image here with the Your Design here in the middle. Let's do that again just for fun. Edit Original. We had the Your Design here. And now we're going to change that Your Design here with a gradient. Why not? Like that. All right, we're going to save that. And now our InDesign should look like this when we save our PSD file. So File, Save. Okay. We go back to our InDesign file. It updates with our changes. So that's the really cool thing about InDesign linking to outside files, is that any change you make to a PSD file, it'll automatically update it inside of your portfolio. All right. Of course, you can also add text to an InDesign file. So you can have like a little bit of an explanation. I'm holding Shift and Command and grabbing the corner. You can add a little bit of an explanation or a title by drawing out a text box. It should be familiar feel, just like with Illustrator or with Photoshop. And you can type in poster. Of course, you have the choice of changing the size of the fonts, changing the type of font, the thickness of the font, etc. You can also pull that up by going to Window and clicking on, our type and character. And this will show our character panel right over here, where you can also select a little bit more details, like the space in between each letter and the space in between each line. Should be very familiar, a lot like Photoshop and Illustrator. But those are basically the basics. Should be a good little overview or recap of InDesign. Of course, InDesign is just as deep as Photoshop and Illustrator when it comes to features and things you can do. There are things like effects that you can add under Object, Effects. You can add a drop shadow to a frame to give it a little bit of depth. Hit that preview button. And you have the same sort of effects as blending options in Photoshop. Spread, size. The size is in inches. You can always change that to pixels if you want a specific pixel amount. You can always type in px for pixels right over there. But you can do things like these kinds of effects. Change blend modes on certain things. But if you do have questions about InDesign and would like to get a little bit more help or in depth into some of the features, I'm more than happy to go over them. But hopefully this kind of helps you out with laying out your portfolios. Okay, and just to kind of show you the benefits, if we do go into Illustrator and we do 11 by 17 and we have 24 artboards, things get a little dicey when it comes to performance. So already it's kind of choppy, and I haven't even put anything in there yet. If I start putting in a bunch of files that are full resolution into Illustrator here, it kind of might start getting a little bit harder to work with. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind. Whichever way you feel is best for you, whatever performance you're getting, if you find that it's working, stick with it. If you find that it's a little frustrating, maybe InDesign is an option for you. try it out, check it out, and let me know what you think, if that's helpful or not. And if it is, and you want to learn a little bit more about the features of InDesign, Triton does have a wonderful InDesign class if you haven't taken it already. If you have, then I'm sure this is a nice little recap. If not, then yeah, I definitely recommend taking an InDesign class. But feel free to always ask me or Jill any questions that you have, and we'll help you out with any features that you might want to include in there. So good luck. Excited to see the results of your portfolio. Oh, you know what? I did forget one thing. We want to package our files. So once you kind of have everything inside of your InDesign file, all these images, like I mentioned, if you just save the InDesign file and give it to somebody else, it's not really going to work very well unless they have all the PSD files or the JPEG files or the PDF files that you included in here. So to make sure that everything is nice and included, that includes any custom fonts as well. So if you did download a font from, you know, Google Fonts or any other website, then those fonts that you include inside of your file here will be included so that you can use that. So to do that, all these files over here with all these links, right? All of these, we want to save them out to a nice folder. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to File, and we're going to click on Package. File, Package. Now, in order to package a file, first, InDesign is going to tell you that you need to save the InDesign file. So we'll have to do that first. So we'll go to File, Save. We'll name our InDesign file Portfolio, or I will name mine Portfolio with my name. And I'm going to save it over to my downloads. And I'm going to hit Save. Oops, I thought I saved. Whoops, I didn't save it right. Let's save as. Thought I saved. I didn't type it into there. That's where I want to save it. So MJ Portfolio. We'll do like that, into downloads, and then we'll hit save. Now it's called mjportfolio.indd for InDesign. Now I can go to File, and now I can go to Package. And that will take everything, any fonts that I used, any images that I used. There's 35 links, 8 fonts that are used inside of my links. We don't have to really worry about that. We're just going to click on Package. And that's going to take everything that we've used and put it into a folder for us. It's going to ask us where we want to put that folder and what we want to call it. We're going to call it MJ Portfolio folder, where we're going to put it into my downloads folder or a different folder if you want. You can select some options over here that includes you want to copy any fonts, you want to copy link graphics, you want to update graphic links in the package. You can click on these if you want. Don't have to, but you can. You can use document hyphenation, exceptions only, or include font and links from hidden and non-printing content. You might want to include that if you do have things outside of your artboard that you are considering using, if you're still laying things out. So some of those things can be hidden. So you may want to include that. And then you'll click on Package. And then once you click on Package, it's going to create a folder called MJ Portfolio folder, or whatever it is that you named it. It's going to copy all the images, or all the PSD files, all the PDF files, all the font files into a nicely organized folder. So we'll click on Package. We'll click on OK. We'll click on OK. And it's going to gather everything that we have. Once it gathers everything and copies it over to that folder, then we can share that folder with anyone, and they'll be able to access all the files that we've had in that file. So now it says InDesign has packaged the document. But the PDF generation resulted in one or more warnings. That's okay because some of the template files did not have the fonts activated, but that's okay. When you have your files in there, you're going to have PSD files, you're going to have JPEG files. All those files should have their fonts activated, so that should be completely fine. Now what you'll notice is that if you go into your desktop, or sorry, your downloads folder, you'll have this folder here called portfolio folder, or however you named it. If you double click on that folder or expand it out to see what's in there, you'll see that you have document fonts, so any fonts that might be needed, like Arial. And then you have your InDesign files. These are the files that you can open. And this is a PDF that you can use to preview or print what your portfolio looks like, page by page. So it kind of already turns it into a PDF for you. The InDesign file can be opened. The links are all over here. So the links are basically all your PSD files that you copied over, any PDF files that you dragged, opened, and dragged and dropped in, any JPEG images, any PNG images, any SVG or EPS images. So if you created a logo and you're putting that inside of there, everything lives inside of this links folder. So you have everything nicely organized that is inside of your InDesign file. And then the cool thing is that once you kind of have everything organized inside of that InDesign file, inside of this links folder, inside of this package, you can make changes or adjust these. So you can change that PSD file mockup that we did inside of this folder, and it will update when you open up this InDesign file. Okay. If you're on our computers here, and you want to share that, you definitely want to take that home and work on it at home with you. Then you can take this folder onto your hard drive, or you can right click and compress it so that it's not, you know, a full 5 gigabytes. If you compress it, it'll be a little bit less, and you can upload that to a OneDrive or a Google Drive or an iCloud account, and have that entire project with all the files, all the fonts, nicely organized right here at your disposal. All right, I hope you enjoyed that quick workshop and quick tutorial on InDesign. And I hope that helps with organizing your portfolio, adjusting your portfolio, and having a nice layout for your portfolio. One thing you might also want to do is when you are creating your portfolio, sorry, I know I keep saying we're done, but one last thing is that over here you can also provide information such as alt text for your images. So that's always a good thing to do. And to provide alt text, you can add alt text by going into your, I think it's the Windows, and it is the properties. And I'll get back to you on that one actually. I know there's a way that you can automatically add alt text to your image over here, but I forget sometimes. We'll get back to you on that one. But there is a way to add alt text to your images so that you can kind of already set it up for ADA compliance if you're looking for that. And I'll probably just add a little message and let you know how you can do that later on after we close down the video. But yeah, sorry for the rambling at the end there. Good luck.